Welcome to the GPLama YouTube channel, and as this year comes to an end, I've been reflecting on some of the hits and misses of bike tech in 2024. There's been a few hits and a few pretty big misses this year. Now, keeping things in the positive today, this video will focus on the Assioma PRO MX power meter pedals, one of the hit products of 2024. I'll give a quick timeline overview since release of these pedals. I'll give you some insight into how I've continued to use them for my testing and riding. I'll cover the recent firmware updates and what they're all about, and we'll have a look at some interesting sales stats posted over on Power Meter City just last week. Onto a brief timeline of the PRO MX release, launched back in February 2024. I did a lot of pre-testing for these before release for around 12 months, even using them as an undercover baseline power meter to compare other power meters to in reviews. Now, my experience with them prior to launch had been great, but only time would tell how a product really performs when they sell in high volumes, not just sending over reviewer units. In other words, could they deliver the same experience to the end user as I was having with their pedals? And by all accounts to date, it looks like they have. When it comes to my ongoing use of these pedals as power meters, which were launched exactly 10 months to the day today being December the 20th, I've continued to use them for power meter and smart trainer benchmarking, and I guess more importantly for my own riding when I'm not assessing other equipment. When I'm out on the bike where there's no cameras, there's no Instagram, there's no YouTube, it's likely these pedals are on the gravel bike or on my mountain bike. The bearings in all my sets are still good, and the spindles are also looking good too. Now, the PRO MX have recently received a new firmware update. Version 5.77 was released on October 28th, 2024, with two line items right here: fine-tuning of the rider position metric and fixed minor bugs. Now, there's been very few firmware updates as the product was ready at launch. It wasn't a beta product requiring a few updates in quick succession after the initial shipments. So if you do have a set of PRO MX, open the Assioma app on iOS and Android and check you're up to date with your firmwares. The Assioma Duo have also had an update in recent weeks to version 6.12, which also lists that fine-tuning of rider position metric as one of the updates. So the rider position metric, what's that all about? Well, when paired to a bike computer or device that is compatible with cycling dynamics, rider position will give you seated and standing time during your ride. Now, I've been digging into this feature on a number of rides, and the conclusion is it's working great on all different types of terrain. But I found some interesting behavior on the Garmin Edge head units, where the real-time seated and standing reports a little bit differently depending if you're showing total time or lap time for these metrics. Oh yes, there's a whole other video on that one for me to cover there, but the data coming from the pedals was fine. Look, the other feature of cycling dynamics on the PRO MX is PCO, Platform Center Offset. Now again, when paired to a bike computer or device that is compatible with cycling dynamics, it will report how forces are distributed across the pedal platform during the pedal stroke. Now for me, PCO has been one of the more useful additional metrics from a power meter. And here's a graph of a ride I did a few months back. I was riding hard for the initial 45 minutes and then through to 1 hour, and you can see an obvious difference there in my PCO when I was riding easier versus when I was riding harder. I tend to have a more positive PCO when I'm riding at higher power. So from that information right there, I may need to assess my pedaling form during these harder efforts. Again, a whole other video in itself at a later date. But interesting data coming from the PRO MX that I would have never seen before had I not dug into what was going on post-ride. Okay, and with that, that wraps up my long-term experience to date with the PRO MX pedals over the last 10 months with the production version, and I guess almost 2 years, including the pre-production. So where has the PRO MX landed for everyone else? Am I an outlier in liking these pedals? It doesn't look like it according to the latest blog post over on powermetercity.com. They've published their sales trends for 2024 and the PRO MX has knocked it out of the park. They saw a massive swing from 75% road power meter sales in 2023 to an almost equal 44% road and 45% mountain bike split this year, with the leftover share there being gravel and track-specific meters. Now, they attributed this swing to almost single-handedly the PRO MX pedals. Favero also topped their most popular power meter brands for 2024 too. Now, these numbers are significant given Power Meter City is a US-based company. Although they do ship worldwide, the Garmin Vectors and Rally power meters have traditionally been very popular in the US market. Look, I'll put links below in the video description to this blog post. I don't have any affiliate links or discounts for those guys. I just think it's very, very interesting data on their power meter pedal sales. Now, it's not a perfect world, and I have seen a post mentioning the clip-in in the PRO MX not being as secure or locking their shoe in tight enough. Now, the SPD interface is a little different to the road and pedal cleat combinations, where the interface is primarily cleat into pedal, and that's it. Now, with SPD, the cleat is also into the pedal, but the sole of the shoe is also interfacing with the pedal body. This gives the shoe more stability when clipped into these tiny little SPD cleats, and it's also the cause of a lot of squeaks in some SPD pedals. Now, my experience with the tension on the PRO MX has been fine. I do a lot of peak power sprints with them at around 1200 watts, both indoors and out. I've had no issues with the SPD shoe and cleat combination that I use. However, it's worth mentioning that I did swap from some worn Exustar SPD cleats a while back to the cleats supplied with the Pro MX, and I found the snap-in was a little snappier, although the release was the same. So I guess your mileage may vary here, and you should always have confidence in your cleats before doing any sprints. So in wrap up, my experience with the Pro MX power meter pedals and the Assioma Duos have been great to date. Favero did take a long time to release the SPD pedals. We all knew they were coming. It took some time, but it looks like it's paid off in releasing a finished product, a trend we've seen other companies not do in 2024. So my call to action here, if you do have a set of Pro MX, either the ones or the twos, comment below on your experience with them. I'm keen to hear how they've performed for you. Now, I don't expect everybody to have positive experiences. There's always a chance that something's going to go wrong with these as moving parts. The safety net there being customer support. So let me know below how they've held up for you. But for me, Favero have done very well with these, and it's why the Pro MX are on my best bike tech hits of 2024. All right, with that, we'll leave it there for today. Thanks for watching and happy riding.